The teacup rattled against the saucer in my hands. Not from fear, from fury. But they couldn't see it. They never could. To them, I was just Margaret, 80 years old, widow, grandmother, the woman who baked cookies and asked about their lives and never caused trouble. They had no idea who I really was. Before I tell you what happened at that dinner party, before I tell you how I took everything back, I need to know something. Where are you right now? What city? What state? Drop it in the comments, because what I'm about to tell you happened in Charleston, South Carolina, in a house my family thought they owned. But it was mine. It had always been mine, and they were about to learn exactly what that meant. My name is Margaret Eleanor Whitmore. I'm 80 years old, and I've been playing the role of harmless grandmother for 32 years. That night, the performance ended. It was a Saturday in October, perfect Charleston weather. My son Richard had called 3 days earlier. "Mom, we want to throw you a birthday party." "Richard, my birthday isn't until December." "I know, but Claire and I were thinking, well, the whole family should be together more. Tommy and Rachel are bringing the kids. It'll be nice." Tommy, my grandson, 28, engaged to a woman named Sienna who worked in marketing and wore shoes that cost more than my first car. "That's lovely, dear." "Great, Saturday at 6. We'll handle everything." The way he said, "we'll handle everything," should have been my first clue, but I already knew. I'd known for 3 months. You see, my neighbor, Judith, wonderful woman, terrible at keeping secrets, had told me she'd overheard Richard and Claire talking in my driveway one afternoon. I'd been at my book club. "The house is worth at least $2 million now, once we get power of attorney." I smiled at Judith and thanked her for the tea. Then I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my attorney, Harrison Webb. We'd known each other for 40 years, since before Richard was born, since anyone in my family knew what I'd done with my life before I became just mom. The second call was to my financial advisor. The third was to a private investigator. I don't do things halfway. So when Saturday came, I put on my best dress, navy blue, the pearls my late husband James gave me on our 30th anniversary. I did my hair, pinned it up the way I always did. I looked exactly like what they expected, a sweet old lady. I arrived at my own house at 5:30. Richard had a key, of course. He'd handled everything. The dining room table was set. Expensive china, flowers, candles. Claire kissed my cheek. "Happy early birthday, Margaret." "Thank you, dear." Tommy and Sienna arrived at 6. Sienna wore white, head to toe. She looked like she was attending a wedding, not a dinner party. "Grammy," Tommy hugged me. He smelled like expensive cologne. Sienna air-kissed near my cheek. "Mrs. Whitmore, lovely to see you." "Please, call me Margaret." She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. We sat for dinner. The conversation was light, safe. They asked about my book club, my garden, my health. I played along. "I'm doing wonderfully, though I do get tired more easily these days." Richard and Claire exchanged a look. There it was. "Mom," Richard said, putting down his fork, "we've been wanting to talk to you about something." "Of course, dear." "Claire and I have been worried. You're here in this big house all alone. What if something happened? What if you fell?" I took a sip of water. "I'm quite careful." "I know you are, but Mom, you're 80 years old. Maybe it's time to think about transitioning." "Transitioning to what?" Claire jumped in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "There's a lovely assisted living facility in Mount Pleasant. I've toured it. Beautiful gardens, activities every day. You'd have people around you all the time." I set down my water glass. Very carefully. "And what would happen to this house?" Richard cleared his throat. "Well, obviously we'd need to sell it, to pay for your care, but don't worry about that. Tommy and Sienna can move in temporarily while we get everything sorted." Tommy had the decency to look uncomfortable. Sienna did not. She was already mentally redecorating. I could see it in her eyes as she glanced around the room, calculating, planning. This was a $2 million house in a historic Charleston neighborhood. She probably had Pinterest boards ready. "I see." I said quietly. You understand, don't you, Mom? Richard reached across the table for my hand. We just want what's best for you. That's when I smiled. Not the smile they were used to, a different one. I do understand, Richard, perfectly, and I excused myself to make a phone call. I walked into the hallway. My hands were steady now. I dialed Harrison's number. He answered on the second ring. It's time, I said. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I hung up and stood there for a moment. In the hallway of the house I'd bought 47 years ago, the house Richard had grown up in, the house he thought he was about to take from me. Behind me, I heard them talking. Sienna's voice carried. Did you see her face? She totally bought it. Sienna, Tommy's voice was low, warning. What? I'm just saying, this is going to be easier than we thought. That facility is like 30 grand a month. The house will be ours free and clear in a year, tops. My jaw clenched. Claire spoke next. Richard, are you sure she won't fight this? She seemed almost too agreeable. She's 80, honey, and she's tired. She basically admitted it herself. I walked back into the dining room. They all looked up, guilty smiles plastered on their faces. I sat down. Is everything all right, Margaret? Claire asked. Perfectly fine. I've invited someone to join us for dessert. Richard frowned. Who? An old friend. He'll be here shortly. The doorbell rang exactly 14 minutes later. I stood. I'll get it. Mom, I've got it, Richard. I opened the door. Harrison Webb stood there in his tailored suit, briefcase in hand. At 75, he was still sharp as a blade, silver hair, steel gray eyes, the best attorney in South Carolina. Margaret, he kissed my cheek. Harrison, thank you for coming. We walked back to the dining room together. 4 faces stared at us, confusion giving way to concern. Everyone, I said, returning to my seat, this is Harrison Webb, my attorney. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Attorney, Richard's voice cracked slightly. Mom, what's going on? I folded my hands in my lap. Mr. Webb has some documents I'd like to share with the family, since we're all here together. Harrison opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder, set it on the table. Is this really necessary right now? Claire's voice had lost its sweetness. It's Margaret's birthday party. Oh, I think it's the perfect time, I said. Harrison cleared his throat. I'll make this brief. Mrs. Whitmore asked me to prepare these documents 3 months ago after she became aware of certain plans regarding her property and personal autonomy. Sienna's face went pale. Tommy closed his eyes. Richard opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The first document, Harrison continued, pulling out papers, is an updated power of attorney. Mrs. Whitmore has revoked the previous designation, which was you, Richard, and has named me as her attorney in fact, effective immediately. What? Richard stood up. You can't just… She can and she has. The second document is a new living trust. Mrs. Whitmore has transferred all her assets, including this property, into an irrevocable trust. She maintains lifetime use and control. Upon her death, the assets will be distributed according to the terms she's specified. Which are? Richard's voice was barely a whisper. I spoke then, calm, clear. None of you are in it. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Sienna was the first to break. This is insane. You can't cut out your own family. I can do whatever I want with my property, dear. It's mine. Richard, do something. Claire grabbed his arm. Richard looked at me. Really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in 30 years. Mom, why? I took a breath. Because 3 months ago, I learned that my own son was planning to have me declared incompetent so he could take my house. I learned that you've been telling people I'm losing my memory, that I'm not capable of living independently, that I need to be cared for. That's not… We were just concerned. Is that what you call it? We are concerned, Claire insisted. You're alone here. You're 80.
I'm alone because I choose to be. I'm 80 because I'm lucky, and I'm far more capable than any of you have ever given me credit for. I stood up, looked at each of them. But you're about to find out exactly how capable I am.
Harrison handed me another document. I held it, didn't open it yet. There's something you should know about me, I said. Something I've never told any of you. Because I didn't think it mattered. I was your mother, your grandmother. That was enough. Mom, what are you talking about? Richard sank back into his chair. Before I married your father, I had a career, a very successful one. Tommy frowned. You were a nurse, right? No, your father was a nurse. I was a software engineer. 4 blank stares. In 1965, I graduated from MIT with a degree in mathematics and computer science, one of 12 women in my class. I was recruited by IBM before I'd even walked across the stage. Sienna's mouth fell open. I worked on early computing systems, helped develop code for financial modeling. By 1970, I was leading a team of 14 people, 13 of them men. I walked to the window, looked out at the garden I'd planted, the garden they thought they'd be selling. In 1972, I met your father at a hospital fundraiser. He was charming, kind. He didn't care that I made more money than him, didn't care that I traveled for work. We got married in 1973. I turned back to them. When I got pregnant with you, Richard, IBM offered me a promotion, VP of Development. I turned it down. Your father and I decided I'd stay home, raise you, be present. Richard's eyes were wet. I didn't regret it, not for a second, but I didn't stop thinking like an engineer. I took the money I'd saved, $40,000, which was a fortune in 1974, and I invested it. Harrison was smiling now. I bought stock in a little company that was just getting started. You might have heard of it, Microsoft. Claire gasped. I also bought early shares in Apple, Amazon, Google. I watched the markets the way your father watched his patients. I read, I studied, I made careful, calculated decisions. I sat back down. When your father died 15 years ago, Richard, I was worth $8 million. The number hung in the air. Today, I'm worth $42 million. Sienna made a sound like she'd been punched. This house, I gestured around us, I bought it outright in 1977 for $90,000. It's worth $2.3 million now, but it's not even close to my most valuable asset. Tommy's hands were shaking. Grammy, we didn't. No, you didn't, because I never told you. I lived simply, drove a 10-year-old car, clipped coupons. Why? Because I didn't need to prove anything. I was comfortable, happy. I looked at Richard. I gave you $100,000 for law school, told you it was life insurance money from your father. It wasn't, it was mine. Richard's face crumbled. I gave you the down payment for your first house, told you it was a gift from both of us. It was just me. Your father had been gone for 2 years. Mom, I paid for Tommy's college, all 4 years. I've given you each money when you needed it, never asked for anything back, never made you feel small for taking it. Claire was crying now. And you were going to put me in a home, sell my house, take everything I'd built, because you thought I was just a confused old woman who didn't know any better. Sienna stood up. We should go. Sit down, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but she sat. Harrison has prepared documents for each of you to sign that acknowledge that you understand I am of sound mind, that you will not contest my decisions regarding my estate, that you will not attempt to claim incompetence or seek guardianship. And if we don't sign? Asked Richard quietly. I opened the folder I'd been holding. Inside were photographs, bank statements, text messages. Then I'll show these to everyone you know. Richard went white, because he knew exactly what was in that folder, and it wasn't about the house at all. I spread the documents across the table, like cards in a game I'd been playing for months. 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator. His name is Marcus Chen, former FBI.
Very thorough. I pointed to the first photograph. This is you, Richard, having lunch with attorney David Kemper, a specialist in elder law and competency proceedings. The date stamp shows July 15th, 2 weeks before you first mentioned concerns about my living situation. Richard's face had gone from white to gray. This one, I slid another photo forward, is you and Claire meeting with a real estate agent, looking at properties in Mount Pleasant, in the 2 million range. Funny, since you told me last month you couldn't afford to help Tommy with his wedding. Claire's tears stopped. She was just staring now. And this, I pushed a bank statement across the table, shows that you, Richard, have been paying monthly premiums on a long-term care insurance policy in my name, without my knowledge, for 18 months. How did you? Richard started. Because they sent a renewal notice to this house. Your house, you called it. My house. It came to my mailbox. I looked at Tommy. You, I'm actually not that angry with. He blinked. You're not? No, because you're weak. You've always been weak. Your father was weak. Sienna here saw that, and she's been pushing you toward this for months. Sienna's face flushed red. That's not... In February, you posted on a private Facebook group for adult children of wealthy parents. You asked how to navigate inheritance when the parent is stubbornly independent. The group has 12,000 members. Marcus screenshotted everything. I slid my phone across the table, showed her the posts. Her own words staring back at her. In March, you consulted with 3 different memory care facilities, asked about their admission processes for patients whose families had concerns, but the patient was resistant. Tommy put his head in his hands. And in April, you made a call to Adult Protective Services, an anonymous tip that an adult woman in Charleston was living in unsafe conditions. They came to my house. Richard's head snapped up. You called APS on your own mother? I didn't know she knew, Tommy shouted. Of course I knew. The investigator showed me his ID, asked to look around. I served him tea, showed him my medical records, my financial statements. He apologized for disturbing me and left. I stood up again, walked to the sideboard, poured myself a glass of wine. My hands were steady as stone. What I'm curious about, I said, turning back to them, is what you thought would happen. Did you think I'd just go quietly, sign whatever papers you put in front of me, let you ship me off to some facility while you divided up my assets? We thought we were helping, Claire whispered. No, you thought you were inheriting. There's a difference. I took a sip of wine. Richard, you make $240,000 a year as an attorney. Claire, you make $90,000 as a pharmaceutical rep. Your combined income is $330,000. You live in a house worth $800,000 with a mortgage of $450,000. You have 2 car payments, a boat payment, and a timeshare in Hilton Head you never use. The specificity made Richard flinch. You're not broke. You're not struggling. You're just greedy. That's not fair. Claire stood up. We have expenses. Do you know how much it costs to maintain our lifestyle? Then change your lifestyle. The words cut through the room like a knife. You want my money? Fine. Here's what you'll get. I nodded to Harrison. He pulled out a single sheet of paper. Upon Mrs. Whittemore's death, Richard Whittemore will receive a one-time payment of $50,000. Thomas Whittemore will receive $25,000. The remainder of the estate, approximately $42 million, will be distributed to charity. Sienna stood up so fast her chair fell over. You can't be serious. I'm deadly serious, dear. Tommy was shaking. Grammy, please. Please what? Please pretend this didn't happen. Please forget that my own family was willing to lie to doctors, lawyers, and social workers to take what's mine. We made a mistake. Richard was on his feet now. We were wrong. I'm sorry. I looked at him. My son. The boy I'd raised. The man I didn't recognize. I know you are.
Being sorry doesn't change what you did. Harrison closed his briefcase. Mrs. Whittemore, if there's nothing else? Actually, there is one more thing. I pulled out a letter, handwritten, on my personal stationery. I'm going to read you something. It's a letter I wrote 6 weeks ago, after I'd learned everything, after I'd made all my decisions. I unfolded it slowly. Dear Richard, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I want you to know why I did what I did. Richard's breath caught. You were such a sweet child, curious, kind. You used to bring me flowers from the garden, dandelions mostly. You'd present them like they were roses. I kept every single one in a vase until they wilted. When you were 8, you told me you wanted to be a lawyer, not because you wanted to make money, because you wanted to help people. I believed you. I was so proud. I put you through college, law school, helped with your first apartment, your first car. I never asked for thanks. Watching you succeed was thanks enough. When Tommy was born, I was there, 3 in the morning, waiting room. I held him before Claire's parents did. You thanked me with tears in your eyes. I've been there for everything, every graduation, every birthday, every holiday. Not because I had to be, because I wanted to be. And somewhere along the way, I became invisible to you. Not Mom, not Margaret, not the woman who gave up her career to raise you, just an obstacle, a resource, something to be managed. My voice cracked on the last word. I cleared my throat, continued. I'm not angry that you want money. Money is just money. I'm angry that you were willing to lie about my mind, my health, my ability to care for myself, that you were willing to humiliate me, diminish me, make me small. Claire was sobbing openly now. So here's what's going to happen. You'll sign the documents Harrison prepared. You'll acknowledge that I'm of sound mind. You'll agree to never pursue guardianship or conservatorship, and in return, I won't show these photographs and documents to your colleagues, your friends, your clients. I folded the letter. That was going to be the end of it. Nice, clean, legal. I set the letter down. But then tonight happened, and I realized something. I looked around the table. You're not going to change, even now, even caught. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. Harrison shook his head violently. That's not true. Mom, I swear. Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't make promises you can't keep. I turned to Harrison. Add a codicil to the trust. Richard gets nothing. Not 50,000, nothing. Everything goes to the charities we discussed. Mom, please. Richard's voice broke. I made a mistake. Don't cut me out completely. You were going to cut me out of my own life. The parallel hung in the air. Mrs. Whittemore, are you certain this is a significant decision? I've been more certain of anything. Sienna grabbed her purse. This is insane. Tommy, we're leaving. Tommy didn't move. He was looking at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Respect. Tommy, Sienna hissed. No, he said quietly. What? No, we're not leaving. Not like this. He turned to me. Grammy, I was wrong. I let Sienna push me. I let Dad push me. I was so focused on the money that I forgot you're a person, not a bank account. A person. Tears ran down his face. I'm so sorry. I studied him. Young, stupid, but maybe not completely lost. You'll sign the documents? Yes. You'll accept whatever I decide to leave you, without contest? Yes. And you'll break up with Sienna? Tommy looked at his fiancée. She was staring at him with pure venom. Yes, he said. Sienna's laugh was ugly. You're pathetic, you know that? She's going to die soon anyway.
You're giving up millions for what? Her approval? Tommy stood up. Get out. Excuse me? I said, get out. We're done. You're making a mistake. The mistake was you. He pulled off his engagement ring, set it on the table. I'll have your stuff sent to your apartment. Sienna looked around the table, looking for an ally. Found none. She grabbed the ring. You're all insane. She stormed out, the front door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, Tommy sat back down. I don't expect you to forgive me, Grammy. I don't forgive you, I said simply. Not yet, maybe not ever, but I respect that you're willing to accept consequences. Richard was still sitting there, frozen. Dad? Tommy looked at him. Aren't you going to say anything? Richard's eyes met mine. I was going to do it. I was actually going to do it. I know. I told myself I was protecting you, that you'd be better off in a facility where people could watch you, monitor you, keep you safe. You told yourself a lot of things. But the truth is I looked at this house and I thought about what it could do for my retirement, for Tommy's wedding, for the life I wanted. And I convinced myself I deserved it, that I'd earned it by being your son. He put his face in his hands. What kind of person does that make me? The kind who needs to leave. Claire stood up. Margaret, please, we can work through this. Family therapy. We'll do whatever it takes. Claire, I looked at her. You need to understand something. I liked you. I thought you were good for Richard. But tonight I saw you coaching him, pushing him. You didn't just go along with this plan, you helped create it. Her face hardened. I was thinking of our future. You were thinking of my money. It's going to be wasted on strangers. There it was, the truth under all the apologies. Those strangers, I said quietly, are women who need help starting over, kids who need scholarships, medical research that might save lives. That's not waste, that's purpose. And we don't deserve anything after everything we've done for you? I almost laughed. What have you done for me, Claire? What have either of you done for me? She opened her mouth, closed it. You visit twice a month, stay for an hour. You ask how I'm doing, but you don't listen to the answer. You bring store-bought cookies and act like it's a gift. You call on holidays, but you're always in a hurry. I stood up. You've done the bare minimum, the absolute least you could do and still call yourselves family. And you thought that entitled you to $42 million? Richard stood too. We should go. Yes, you should. He looked at me one more time. I loved you, Mom. I do love you. I know, but love isn't enough when it comes with conditions. He nodded slowly, took Claire's hand. They walked to the door, stopped. Will you call me if you need anything? No. The word was final. They left. The house was quiet except for Tommy, Harrison, and me. Tommy was crying silently, shoulders shaking. I sat down next to him, put my hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing. I lost everything. No, you lost a woman who saw you as a wallet and a father who was willing to hurt his own mother for money. That's not everything. That's dead weight. He looked at me. What do I do now? You sign the papers. You go home. You figure out who you want to be. Will you ever trust me again? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Maybe, if you earn it. But Tommy, that's going to take years, not weeks, not months, years of showing me, showing yourself that you're better than this. I want to be. Then be. Harrison cleared his throat. Shall I prepare the documents for signing? I nodded. Tommy signed everything without reading it. When he was done, he stood up. I love you, Grammy. I know. He left.
Harrison and I sat in silence for a long moment. The dining room felt bigger somehow, emptier. That was harder than you expected, he said, not a question. Yes, Second thoughts? No. He smiled. Good, because you did the right thing, Margaret. Did I? I just cut off my entire family. You cut off people who were trying to exploit you. There's a difference. I looked around the room, the tables still set with their plates, their half-finished meals, the wine glasses, the flowers, a party that had become a trial. How did I raise a son who would do this? The question had been sitting in my chest for 3 months. Harrison poured himself a glass of wine, poured me another. You didn't raise him to do this. You raised him to be better. He chose differently. His father would be devastated. James was a better person than I am. James was a saint. You're human. There's no shame in that. We sat there, two old friends, survivors of different battles. What happens now? I asked. Legally? Nothing, unless they contest, which they won't. I made it very clear what I'd release to the public if they tried. I meant personally. Ah, Harrison swirled his wine. That's trickier. You'll be angry for a while, then sad, then you'll question whether you did the right thing. Then you'll remember why you did it. The cycle will repeat for about 6 months. Sounds exhausting. It is, but on the other side of it, you'll have something they can never take from you. What's that? Peace. I hoped he was right. We finished our wine in comfortable silence. When Harrison left, I cleaned up, washed the dishes, put away the china. It was midnight when I finally sat down in James's chair, the leather one by the window, the one that Richard had wanted for his office. I looked around my house, my beautiful house that I'd fought for, that I'd kept, and I cried. Not from sadness, not exactly, from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of carrying a secret for so long and finally setting it down. I'd been hiding for 32 years, not from danger, from judgment. I'd made myself smaller, quieter, less threatening. The brilliant engineer became the baking grandmother. The woman who'd led teams and built systems became the woman who clipped coupons. I'd done it willingly, happily even. But somewhere along the way, they'd started to believe that's all I was. That's all I'd ever been. Tonight, I'd reminded them, reminded myself. I was Margaret Eleanor Whitmore, MIT graduate, IBM engineer, investor, mother, widow, fighter. And I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I called Marcus Chen. Mrs. Whitmore, how did it go? Exactly as we planned. Thank you for your excellent work. My pleasure, though I have to say, I've never had a client who was so calm about discovering their family was plotting against them. I've faced worse than Richard, trust me. I believe you. Is there anything else you need? I thought about it. Actually, yes, I want you to monitor their activities for the next 6 months, discreetly. If they try anything, anything at all, I want to know immediately. Absolutely. And Mrs. Whitmore, for what it's worth, I think you're remarkable. Thank you, Marcus. I hung up and made coffee. Real coffee. The expensive kind I usually saved for special occasions. Today felt special. I'd taken my life back, and I was going to enjoy it. I called my book club, confirmed our meeting for Tuesday. I called Judith next door, asked if she wanted to have lunch. I pulled out my gardening gloves and spent 3 hours in the flower beds. My back ached by the time I was done, but it felt good. At 3 o'clock, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then curiosity got the better of me. Hello? Mrs. Whitmore, this is Sarah Chen from the Charleston Women's Shelter. Marcus Chen is my brother. He mentioned you might be interested in making a donation. I smiled. Marcus worked fast. Tell me about your organization. Renewed energy, purpose returning, warmth creeping back in. Excited but measured, hope threading through. Sarah Chen talked for 20 minutes about women fleeing abuse, about kids who needed stability, about the shelter's programs for job training, education, childcare, about how they were currently turning away 2 women for every one they could help.
because they didn't have space, didn't have funding. We're trying to raise money for a second location, Sarah said, but it's slow going. We need about 1.5 million to purchase and renovate the property we found. What if I gave you 2 million? Silence. Mrs. Whitmore? 2 million. One for the property, one for an endowment to help with operating costs. I I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. I could hear her crying. There's one condition. Anything. I want to be involved, not just a donor. I want to see the plans, meet the residents, help where I can. We would be honored. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in months. Over the next 3 weeks, I threw myself into the project. I met with architects, reviewed budgets, interviewed potential staff. I also met the women staying at the current shelter. Amber, 34, with 2 kids, fled her husband after he put her in the hospital. Jessica, 27, working 2 jobs to save enough to get her own place. Denise, 41, getting her GED while her daughter was in school. They reminded me of myself. Not the abuse, I'd been lucky in that way. James had been gentle, kind. But the determination, the quiet strength, the refusal to stay small. I'd seen that in the mirror for 40 years. Why are you doing this? Amber asked me one afternoon. We were sitting in the shelter's common room while her kids did homework. Because I can, and because someone should. But you're rich. You could be anywhere doing anything. I am doing what I want. This matters. She studied me. You're different than I expected. How so? Rich people usually want their names on things, big plaques, recognition. You haven't asked for any of that. I don't need a plaque to know I'm helping. Then why do it at all? I thought about how to answer. My family thought I was helpless, useless, someone to be managed. And maybe if I'd believed them, I would be. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Because I know who I am, what I've built, what I'm capable of. I looked at her. You're capable of more than you know, too. You left. You protected your kids. You're here, working, planning, building a future. That's not helpless. Amber's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. I understood exactly what she meant. The shelter project took 6 months. In that time, I didn't hear from Richard or Claire. Tommy called twice. The first time, I didn't answer. The second time, I did. Grammy? Hello, Tommy. I wanted you to know I enrolled in therapy. That's good. And I'm volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping people with housing issues. It's not much, but it's a start. Silence. Can I see you sometime? Just coffee, nothing else. I considered it. Not yet. Okay, I understand. He paused. I'm proud of you, for what you did, for standing up for yourself. Thank you. I love you. I know. I hung up. Harrison called that same week. Tommy's been making payments to a women's shelter downtown. Small amounts, $20 here, $50 there, whatever he can afford. How do you know this? I have my sources. Thought you'd want to know. Maybe Tommy was serious. Maybe he was changing. Time would tell. The new shelter opened in April. 2 stories, 12 bedrooms, commercial kitchen, childcare center, computer lab. Space for 24 women and their children. At the ribbon cutting, Sarah Chen tried to get me to make a speech. I refused. This isn't about me. But you made it possible. I wrote a check. Those women are making it possible by having the courage to walk through the door. The shelter filled up within a week. Have you ever seen something you built come to life? Drop a comment and tell me about it. Because watching those families settle in, kids laughing, women smiling, hope returning, that was worth more than any inheritance. That was legacy. I thought that was the end of my story. The shelter thriving, my life settled, my family at a distance. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday in June, book club night. I was getting ready when the doorbell rang. I checked the camera Harrison had insisted I install. Richard, standing on my porch, alone. I almost didn't open the door, but curiosity won again. I opened it, didn't invite him in. "Hello, Richard." "Mom." He looked terrible, 20 pounds thinner, deep circles under his eyes. "Can we talk?" "We have nothing to discuss." "Please, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." I looked at him. My son, my stranger. 5 minutes. I let him in, but we stayed in the foyer. He looked around. "House looks good." "What do you want, Richard?" He took a breath. "I'm here to tell you that you were right. About everything. I was greedy. I was entitled. I convinced myself I deserved something I hadn't earned. I know all this. I also came to tell you that Claire and I are separated." That surprised me. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't be. It's been coming for a long time. We wanted different things. Turned out most of those things were financial." He looked at his hands. "After that night, she was furious, not at herself, at you, for holding out on us, for hoarding money you could have shared. And you?" "I was angry too, at first. Then I started thinking about what you said, about who I'd become." He met my eyes. I didn't like the answer. "What did you do about it?" "I quit my job." My eyebrows rose. "You what?" "I was making $240,000 a year defending insurance companies who didn't want to pay out claims, people who'd lost everything, and I was the one telling them they deserved nothing." He shook his head. "I couldn't keep doing it, not after seeing myself through your eyes." "What are you doing now?" "I joined a nonprofit. We do estate planning for low-income families. I make $65,000 a year. It's barely enough to cover my mortgage." Claire hated it, hated me for taking the pay cut. "So she left." "So I asked her to leave. I didn't want to be the person she was trying to make me anymore." I studied him, looking for the lie, the angle. Found none. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know I heard you, that night, everything you said, and I'm trying to be better." "That's good, Richard. I mean that." "Is there any chance at all, that you might forgive me?" The question hung between us. "I don't know," I said honestly. "What you did, what you tried to do, that's not something I can just forget." "I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking if there's a path forward." "Maybe, eventually. But Richard, it would require you to prove, over years, not months, that you've actually changed, that you see me as a person, not an asset." "I understand. And I'm still leaving everything to charity. That doesn't change." "I know, and I'm okay with that. I don't want your money. I want my mother." His voice cracked on the last word. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. "Your 5 minutes are up." He nodded, started to leave. "Richard?" He turned back. "I have book club tonight, but maybe we could have coffee. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock at that place on King Street." His face transformed. "Really?" "One coffee. No promises beyond that." "One coffee is more than I deserve." "Yes, it is." He left. I stood in the foyer for a long time after he was gone, thinking about second chances, about whether people could really change, about whether I wanted to forgive him. The truth was, I didn't know, but I was willing to find out. Saturday came. I got to the coffee shop first, ordered my usual, black coffee, no sugar, waited. Richard arrived exactly at 9, ordered tea, sat down across from me. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on time." We sat in awkward silence. Then Richard said, "Tell me about the shelter." "What about it?" "Everything. I want to know what you're building." So I told him, and for the first time in years, my son really listened. It's been 18 months since that dinner party. 18 months since I took my life back. The shelter is thriving. We're planning a third location. Tommy comes to volunteer twice a month, helps with legal paperwork for the residents. He's dating someone new, a teacher named Amy who volunteers at the same clinic. She has no idea about my money, likes him for him. Richard and I have coffee every Saturday. We don't talk about the past much. Mostly we talk about his work, my projects, the books I'm reading, the garden. Slowly, very slowly, we're rebuilding. Claire remarried, a hedge fund manager. I sent a card, no hard feelings. She wasn't right for Richard anyway. As for me, I'm 81 now, still driving, still gardening, still managing my own investments. I started a blog about late life financial independence. It has 50,000 followers, mostly women my age who thought it was too late to take control of their money. It's never too late. I also started a class at the community college, Introduction to Investing for Women. It fills up every semester. Last month, one of my students, a 73-year-old widow named Barbara, came to me after class. I just made my first stock trade, she said, beaming. Microsoft, like you said. Good choice. My son told me I was too old to learn this stuff, that I should just let him handle my money. What did you tell him? I told him I had it handled, and then I told him about you. She hugged me. That moment, that connection, that's what this is all about. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. For so long, I made myself small to make others comfortable. I hid my intelligence, my success, my capability. I played the role they wanted me to play, and they loved me for it, until they decided I'd played it too well, that I really was what I pretended to be. That's when I learned the most important lesson of my life. You teach people how to treat you. If you make yourself small, they'll keep you small. If you give up your power, they'll use it against you. If you hide who you really are, they'll never see you. So here's my question for you, and I really want to know. Where are you watching from right now? What city, what state, what country? Drop it in the comments. Because this story started in Charleston, South Carolina, but it's not just my story. It's the story of every person who's been underestimated, every person who's been told they're too old, too young, too anything to know what they want, every person who's made themselves smaller to keep the peace. What part of this story hit you hardest? The confrontation, the investigation, the choice to cut Richard off? Tell me in the comments. And here's the real question. Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Someone who's being taken advantage of? Someone who's forgotten how capable they are? Share this video with them right now, because maybe, just maybe, my story will remind them of their own strength. If you're that person, if you're the one who needs to hear this, listen to me. You are not too old to start over. You are not too old to set boundaries. You are not too old to demand respect. Age is not weakness. Experience is power, and you have more power than anyone has ever given you credit for. Hit that subscribe button if this story meant something to you. Like this video if it moved you. Comment and tell me your story. We're building something here, a community of people who refuse to be invisible. Join us. And remember, you don't need a $1 million portfolio to take control of your life. You just need the courage to say no more, to say I deserve better, to say I'm done being small. Say it with me right now. I am done being small. This is Margaret Whittemore reminding you that you are capable of so much more than anyone, including yourself, has ever imagined. Now go prove it. I'll be here, sharing stories, building community, reminding you of your worth. Because you matter. You always have.